Good evening, friends and family, and welcome to Wisdom and Money's year-end celebration, Living in Gift. Tonight, Jewish people all over the world are lighting the first candle of Hanukkah. I want to wish a happy Hanukkah to our friends who are with us who are Jewish. And so begins a season in which people of many faith traditions look straight into the dark and hold up a light. Our intention tonight is to share stories and art as our way of holding up light as we bring 2020 to completion. Tonight, you will hear stories about Wisdom and Money, the organization that I work for as a co-director with Stephen Bonzi. Wisdom and Money brings together people who see themselves as financially wealthy and/or who come from a culture of wealth to engage with money as a doorway to spiritual transformation. The stories you will hear tonight are stories meant to show what that means. But this work is not only for people of wealth. We see ourselves as part of a movement of people who work to create a world in which economic resources flow in such a way that everyone has what they need to thrive. Tonight, we hope you will also hear stories of how our work ripples out beyond the lives of those of us who see ourselves as financially wealthy. Specifically tonight, you will experience the photos of Noah Molobane. You'll hear a sharing from Stephen Bonzi on what living in gift means. And you will experience the music of Rod Cardamone and Gina Breedlove. We are in for a treat. I hope you're sitting in a comfortable chair and have a glass or a cup of your favorite evening beverage. I know I have mine right over here. And a few tech notes. This event is our first ever Zoom webinar, and the person behind the scenes who is running our tech tonight is Ian Cardamo. There he is. Thanks, Ian. The format on this webinar is very similar to Zoom rooms that many of us have become used to, except we will only be able to see and hear our performers. Your camera is off and your microphone is automatically muted. That being said, we can communicate using the chat. And during the next hour, I will be posting a few websites in the chat in case you want to learn more about Wisdom and Money or any of our artists. The chat is also a way that we can say hello to each other. So I invite you now to post your name in the chat and your geographical location so we can get a sense of who is here. It's now time for me to introduce my friend and colleague, Noah Molobane. Noah and I worked together for 10 years as staff in Harvest Time and Wisdom and Money. And during those years, I learned so much from Noah, most especially about how to integrate our highest vision into the work that we do. She was instrumental in helping Wisdom and Money to integrate the Be Present empowerment model into how we work together. She also taught me so much about how to be community for one another, showing up during off hours when something challenging was happening for me personally, as well as to celebrate joyful moments. And then, of course, there are her photographs, which Noah has shared and continues to share with our organization. Noah sometimes introduced me to people as her boss, which I always found amusing since I was learning so much from Noah. But now she serves on the Wisdom and Money Board of Directors, which technically makes her my boss. And so, friends, I introduce you to my boss and my dear friend, Noah Molobane.
My path to Wisdom and Money began at a Be Present 18-month training on race, gender, power, and class. This is where I met Rose Feerick, the co-director of what was then known as Harvest Time, now Wisdom and Money. Over 18 months, we sat together and listened to each other's stories, witnessed each other's movement, and worked intensively together on 2 committees. I gained tremendous respect for Rose, her honesty, integrity, courage, compassion, commitment, respectfulness, and playfulness. Towards the conclusion of that training in 2008, we were in a moment where my father, who I had never lived with, had recently passed away, leaving me a $300,000 inheritance. And the economy was tanking, drying up my independent consulting work with nonprofits. Rose was looking for an administrative assistant, and we already knew we had a good working partnership through our committee work in the 18-month training. First, I had a hard time wrapping my brain around working for an organization that was profoundly based in Christianity, working with people who understood themselves to have more than enough financial wealth, and who were primarily both Christian and white. I am an American, Israeli, non-practicing Jew. I live in a very multiracial family and extended family community. And my recent $300,000 inheritance was more than I could conceive of at that time. But I trusted my friendship with Rose. She assured me that all are welcome, and I was very drawn to the purpose of the organization. As I understood it, the organization provided settings for people who were interested in working their growing edges around money and all their relationships related to money, giving it, receiving it, spending it, investing it. People who were interested in entering their money into a flowing stream in alignment with their heart and spirit that could become transformative in creating that world I was interested in living in. A just one, with resources shared equitably, and real relationships across all the societal barriers that have been erected by this world we currently live in. And now I was on a new money journey myself, moving from spending out my bank balance each month and having deep credit card debt to having savings in the bank and more money to give and invest, figuring out how to keep some to sustain myself and family without closing my heart to people I love and am in relationship with. So I accepted the job. I had very little understanding at that time of the organization's practices, many of which I've come to appreciate and love. One is that we as staff and board practice internally what is offered to others. Folks sitting in circles, supporting each other and sharing their growing edges using the Be Present empowerment model rather than advice giving. I joined one of these circles. We share our money stories. Financial transparency, breaking the secrecy and taboos about talking about money, is one of my favorite practices and so freeing. Our life experiences, our perspectives, our visions, so we can make increasingly conscious and courageous decisions. Spending stillness time in nature, my equivalent of synagogue, listening for that quieter voice of guidance to my heart and spirit. Different forms of prayer and meditation, whether that is Lectio Divina, prayer expressed through body motion, walking a labyrinth, or sitting quietly together in circle. Creative expression and play to give permission and open sight for what often lies more under the surface. Then there is the practice of living in gift. I've worked for nonprofits all my life. I was used to sustaining nonprofits in the usual fundraising ways: bake sales, raffles, grant writing, and fee for service. I had much to learn about creating a vision and then putting it out in the world by putting it on the altar, and offering everything as gift, and inviting gifts simultaneously. I was building my own level of faith and trust. Two and a half years ago, I was at the beginning of a Wisdom and Money board meeting, surrounded by my beloved friends, co-workers, and the board members, when I got word that my elder brother, Yair, had just taken his own life. It says a lot about this organization, staff, and board that I could stay through that meeting, supported to be exactly where I was, so deeply held by my friends, and still participating in a groundbreaking meeting. I was soon to practice living in deep grief, deep gratitude, deep fear, and deep purpose, all at the same time. Before departing from our physical presence, Yair put all his affairs in detailed order to allow as much ease as possible for me and my younger half-brother Eran, to whom he left his estate. The gifts he left us now put me in the millionaire category, although fortunately not distributable all at once. Included in those gifts were 38 lots of land at the base of Mount Shasta, and the opportunity to get to know my younger half-brother better. I met him only once when I was 12, and then not again until I was in college. The friends, support, and practices of Wisdom and Money have made a huge difference in how I've been able to step into this life change. I became not only the recipient of, but also the executor of Yair's will. My wife, Demetra, and I set up a living trust and got legally married. We moved up to the base of Mount Shasta to learn more about the land he left us. I had never owned any property. My learning curve was as steep as the Mount Shasta slopes. My brother Eran and I, with the extraordinary help of my son Namani, set up a family business that brings Eran, Dimitra, and I together online with 6 of our children every other Sunday to work with the land here at the base of Mount Shasta. Right now, we're visioning a community village on this beautiful land that honors those who came before us, the incredible nature we live in, and each other as spirits dwelling in human bodies, as my friend and teacher Lily Allen likes to say. To answer my initial questions, yes, I have felt welcomed. I also received tremendous gifts from being on staff, in a circle, and on the board. Gifts which in turn become gifts that touch many more people. I always wonder what visions the next folks to step into a Wisdom and Money circle will actualize.
Thank you, Noah, for sharing that story with us. Thank you for sharing your beautiful photographs. And thanks to all of you for joining us in this Living in Gift celebration. I'm Stephen Bonsi with Rose Furyk. I'm co-director of Wisdom and Money. Living in Gift means a lot to us. As Noah suggested, it describes the kind of relationship with money that we would love to invite others into. But Living in Gift also describes our business plan as an organization. When Elizabeth and I first stepped into the Boston Circle, all of the expenses of our retreat had already been paid by members of another circle, the Beloved Community. And we in turn were invited to join the flow of gift so that others could receive what we had received. We had come to the Boston Circle seeking support for aligning our management of inherited wealth with the life and teachings of Jesus as we had received those. The conventional conversation about managing inherited wealth, it didn't speak to us. We were seeking a different conversation, one that might open up for us a relationship with money that felt life-giving for us and our loved ones, but also for our neighbors and for the earth. For 15 years, the Beloved Community has unconditionally supported us as we've undertaken bold experiments with money, experimenting with new approaches in our philanthropy and our investing. And as we've discussed these experiments in the circle, I have come to seek for certain signs in a financial transaction. If in a movement of money, even a large sum of money out of my accounts, I yet experience a sense of having received more than I've been given. If in fact the distinction between giving and receiving breaks down and abundance just seems to flow in all directions, that for me is a sign that this movement of money has been in the flow of spirit. And that mystery of abundance flowing in all directions, that's a mystery that calls to me. That mystery opened up new vistas for me in my work as an Episcopal priest, in my preaching, in my teaching, in my counseling. I've now retired from the church. That mystery continues to call to me. As I donate my time as a full-time director, that mystery continues to open up new vistas for me. I would love for you to learn more about our practice of living in gift. The website address below will take you to our secure donation portal. There you will find a statement of our practice. If at any time in the course of this hour, this Living in Gift celebration, you hear anything that calls to you, if you would like to join our work by participating in any of our events, we would love that. If you would like to join our work by making a financial contribution, we would love that. And if you would like to have a one-to-one conversation with Rose or with me about the feelings that arise in you anytime anyone asks you for money, we would love that. So please do take note of the address below, take a screenshot, come back and visit us. But now let me introduce to you a young songwriter who writes songs from an old soul. I have been privileged to get to know Rod Cardamone as he participated in a Wisdom and Money retreat in Rwanda, and as we traveled together to call on friends in Uganda and in Kenya. I've seen him visit genocide memorials in Kigali. I've seen him meet boys and young women living on the streets in Kampala. I've seen him join a family meal in a rural home outside of Luanda. I've seen him take these experiences and many others deeply into himself. And I've seen him bring out songs that shine like diamonds. Fortunately for us, he also sings and plays guitar. So do come and visit us at our website. But for now, receive this living gift, Rod Cardamone.
So I've had a bit of a unique introduction to the work of Wisdom and Money. I've actually been living with it for my entire life. The reason for that being my mother, for as long as I've been alive, has been involved in this work. And so I've gotten to witness it firsthand, starting out as a 3-year-old walking into conference calls. But it was really important, especially for me. I grew up in a strange part of this strange world. I went to school for the first 17 years of my life in Atherton, California. For those of you who don't know, Atherton is a very wealthy suburb in the Bay Area. I think it's actually one of the wealthiest zip codes, if not the wealthiest zip code in the United States. And so my reality growing up was going to school with people who were the kids of millionaires and billionaires and, who drove fancy cars like Audis and Teslas at the age of 16. And so that's the world that I thought was normal, and even though I do come from a very well-to-do family, I always felt like I didn't have enough. And, I think in some ways I kind of internalized the mentality of that place, which is something along the lines of, you have to be the best or you're a failure, succeed or die. And that, in one way or another, life's about accumulating something. But anyways, luckily, the work of Wisdom and Money was always there. And my mom was always there to show me that that is not the reality. So anyways, I've had a lot of very special opportunities with Wisdom and Money in the last few years. In particular, I got the privilege, as Steve just mentioned, to travel to Rwanda with a group that included Steve and Gina, who I'll be introducing later. And I also had the privilege to go to Uganda and Kenya with Steve. And, there's a lot of profound moments there. But one that stuck out was being with Steve in the slums of Kampala, and standing there and, being around children who who were the age of my younger sister, who was at the time, 9 or 10 years old. And just realizing that there's a lot to reality that's different than what I was in. And of course, that growing up, but it's a different thing to be standing in it and talking to the people and greeting and sharing meals with those people. And so you come back and you're kind of in this very strange place of trying to figure out what the hell you're doing kind of in the midst of this. And for navigating journeys like that, I think Wisdom and Money is a very useful organization, and an organization that fundamentally knows what they're doing. I also had the opportunity to interview my mom for a paper I was writing for college, actually, last year. And I remember asking her about how the retreats worked with Wisdom and Money. And she told me that the first question they ask on their retreats is, how much money is in your bank account? And, I think I laughed at the time because that's not something you usually do. But that's the approach, right? And it's going right into it. And really showing, and Wisdom and Money has been showing and continues to show that money doesn't have to be this thing that has these connotations of greed, of kind of excessive want, of selfishness. And no, it doesn't have to be that. It can also be a tool of transformation, and it's possible for anybody, including people who have grown up in realities like mine or variations of it, to move into a new way of conceiving of money and of living in gift. So anyways, I'm going to leave my testimony there, and I'm going to play a couple songs. I don't really have a direct way to connect them to the work of Wisdom and Money. This first one is, this one's called Blue Divide, and what it's about, more or less, of course, open to interpretation, is about being in a place where you're really alone, and you're trying to figure out which way to go, and there's a more difficult way you have to go, but fear is keeping you from going that way. So I wrote this song in November of last year, well before the world became COVID-y. It's become a little bit more apt, unfortunately, in the last 10 months or so. But this is Blue Divide. I used to make a living on the ocean. Had my own craft from the day I turned 15. Believed I could read the current's motion, till the storm came and took that faith from me. Still don't know what I missed in the clear skies. Left the harbor on a night perfectly still. Gale came out of nowhere and I capsized. I passed out just before my lungs were filled. Woke up on a shoreline in the wet sand. By God's hand, thought perhaps I had been saved. I ran shouting wildly through the palm stand, and came back out on the beach my hope betrayed. Well, I've stayed alive a while on this island, drank the rain, and I fished in the lagoon. No longer can I hope that rescue's coming. And some nights it feels like I'm on the moon. Fear, fear, fear has kept me here. Now the shore might seem like refuge, my only chance at life's the blue divide. In dreams I see the face of my own mother. I'm sure by now she only seldom thinks of me. Awake within the silence, I first wonder, is the mainland better as a memory? But I decide I will not die in isolation from pieces of the wreckage I slowly build. A delicate but seaworthy creation, and push off towards the break with all my will. Fear, fear, fear can try to steer, but the wind is in the sail now, and it's blowing me into the blue divide. A wall of water rises swiftly, lifts me up. I paddle for the crest, and in a heart-stopping moment, I'm on the other side, crossing a sea at rest. As a boy, I read of Polynesian sailors finding islands with ancient knowledge in their minds. Well, I've never been that kind of navigator, but I recall how they could know land was nearby. A pair of birds are gliding towards the sunset, heading with certainty for points unknown. If I sail that same direction, it's a good bet this handmade life raft will see me home. Fear, fear, fear still stays near, but the force that kept me shore-bound is willing me through the blue divide. Willing me through the blue divide. Okay, so this next song is another one. Oh, thank you. Somebody says clapping, exclamation point, exclamation point. Thank you very much. This next song is another one that I wrote in a slightly different world. But it's a song about a city I was living in last year, which was New York. And it's also kind of a song about, the power of movies, and, movies can kind of show us this, there's moments where the character realizes what their life was really about, what it was supposed to be about, and it's all quite clear. And so this is kind of a song of like walking out of like a profound movie that's like, had some sort of serious effect on you. And then you're back in the real world, in reality. And you're trying to find the in between. How do you bring that profound thing into your life, given that your life is not exactly like that. You don't get the music scores rising in the background at the important moments, though that would be very nice. So, okay. The final scene brought tears to my jaded eyes. Each conflict and romance seen through. He'd learned to treasure every day and those around him. A piano score began, the moral drop disguise. At last the grand chorus renewed, recalling an old simple truth that I'd forgotten. That cinematic spell was here and gone. The theater lights came up, I carried on, having somehow lost the melody in between the movie and reality. Still Christmas in New York, under hazy light, beyond the marquee only rain. I walk in clouded pools of thought and downturned faces. These eyes retain a faith in the silent night. My hours were not spent in vain. The tune echoing just out of mind is sung some places and heard above the glare of technicolor scenes. Beyond audience chairs, I could feel what it means to know the magic of mortality in between the movie and reality. If forever is delusion in the street and destiny was hollow concrete, I'd play a voiceless part and lose my longing in the dark. I'd swear the movie's missing the music and listening's been hopeless from the start. But I have glimpsed a symphony in light. It eclipsed cacophony's might, not only through the screen, but on the other side of dreams. It seems the movie's missing the music, still I keep hearing whispers of a theme. The station almost closed, a beacon to my sight. There's time till the midnight train home. The ceiling magnifies a hymn I could not hum alone. Familiar undertones, specks of starry white, where no doubt could have painted the stone. So high above the passerby, they're never fully known. Do constellations harmonize these ordinary lives? A masterpiece peripheral, two eyes desensitized. But I'm far from stars' neutrality in between the movie and reality. If forever is delusion in the street and destiny was hollow concrete, I'd play a voiceless part and lose lose my longing in the dark. I swear the movie's missing the music, and listening's been hopeless from the start. But I have glimpsed a symphony in light. It eclipsed cacophony's might, not only through the screen, but on the other side of dreams. It seems the movie's missing the music, still I keep hearing whispers of a theme. I've woke before with traces of illumined scenes, though essence is drowned out at dawn. I feared the song of simple truth cannot be carried on. But the Harlem line's abuzz, it's no metro dream. That sound's never been quite this strong. An orchestra of souls aboard, and somehow each part belongs. A blinding sun's beneath us, looming out of view. Could an eternal chorus in its light glimmer too? If tomorrow's eyes are tuned to see in between the movie and reality. Still there's a long ride down the tracks for me, in between the movie and reality. Anyways, thank you very much. Okay, so that's all from me. And now it's my privilege to introduce the next performer, and that's Gina Breedlove. I've had the privilege to know Gina Breedlove for a few years now through the work of Wisdom and Money. And some of you may already know this, but she's just an absolutely phenomenal and inspiring person to be around. One of the great moments that we got to share together was going to Rwanda on a Wisdom and Money retreat. And one of the highlights of that for me was getting to see Gina bring her sound work into this space where, you know, there was mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers who had been the victims of genocide, and then there was also some people who had been the perpetrators of genocide. And to me, that's a pretty intimidating space. But Gina brought her work into that, and it was absolutely magical. So anyways, I won't waste any more time talking about her. I'll let you hear her. Anyways, it's my pleasure to welcome Gina Breedlove.
Thank you. Anybody here? Anybody here? Anybody? We step out into the rising waters, and the waters come to our breast. We keep walking through the rushing water, and the waves Anybody here? Is there anybody? Anybody? I call out with the strength of my voice, and I call on the power of all that I am. I walk out into the rain and the lightning, the thunder clouds rushing round my head, singing, anybody, anybody, anybody here. Hello, family. Yes, we are here. We are here together. Thank you, Rod. I love your voice and your music and your words, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. It was my grace to be in Rwanda with you as well, and with your mom, Rose, and with Steve. It was an incredible experience that absolutely changed my life. My cells, my cellular body was different when we left Rwanda. And I would love to talk more about that. But what I would like to share with you all this morning, this evening, what time is it? I don't know. Sorry. It's this Zoom Life family. I've been on Zoom since this morning because, of course, this is how we're doing our work, right? And even though I'm grateful for this medium, I do miss touching hands. I do miss hugging. And I'm missing seeing your faces, frankly, but I'm grateful and I can feel your presence. I want to share about my story, my walk with money, and how that walk led me to wisdom and money. I became aware of the inequities and disparities around money when I was 5 years old. Yes, that young, because I came from a family that had no resources. My people had no money. My mother and father, and there were 5 of us. I had 4 siblings. There were 5 of us all together. And my mom and dad in Brooklyn, New York, where we lived, could not manage. And so we were constantly being evicted. And evicted from our homes. We spent a lot of time in shelters or with relatives in New York. And we were always hungry. And so my mother and father thought that if other relatives took care of us, that they could figure out how to manage and then bring us home. And so my siblings and I were sent to live with family members, some that were close and some my family did not know very well. And my father had a niece in Florida, and I was put on a plane and sent to Florida to live with family that my dad did not know very well. A 5-year-old baby girl in a family of boys put me at risk. And so I learned to equate my safety and my sense of myself with money. And that was not very strange for the neighborhood and for the community that I grew up in. It was a reflection of what I saw around me every day. This sense of lack and depravity and the violence that comes from that. And so I built this whole narrative, of course, whole worlds around what money is and who gets to have and who doesn't. Now, I am a woman of spirit, and it was spirit that helped me survive those times, family. And my work was steadily becoming, from my early 20s to my 30s, about liberation and freedom. And any work that I did with other people, as a healer, as a sound healer, as a musician, as a presence in the world, I, of course, must do on myself. And this narrative about money, and yes, there are real inequities, of course, in this country, but I equated money with worthiness. And the shame around my origin story was blocking my grace, was blocking my movement, was blocking my evolution. I am certain that it was the hand of grace that led me to wisdom and money, to being on a board with folk, to sitting in community with folk that before meeting Rose and sitting with Steve and our other board members, I could not conceive that I had anything in common, that I had anything in common with this beloved community. I had all of these ideas about who folks were who walked around with means. And then I got to sit in this glorious group of folk, and I got to be closer with Lily Allen, who I absolutely adore, and I adore all of the members of our circle. But Lily Allen, who gifted the world with this practice called Be Present, which I am in practice with to understanding, and I feel like I may be for as long as my eyes are open in this realm, because there's so much to know about how to listen, how to lean back, how to know yourself outside of the distress, how to know myself outside of the distress of my origin story around money. To sit next to Nancy and Steve and see the humanity of us and to see where we intersect and connect. And for me, especially Steve, Steve to me was as far away as the moon is to the earth. In my understanding of what could we possibly have in common, I am a Black, queer medicine woman. And Steve is a white clergyman who has wealth. And so my journey, walking beside Steve and also being in disagreement and in our own concept and idea of who the other was, and staying in the hard conversations, practicing the Be Present model and being held by our board community, has created an expansiveness inside of me and this awareness of what is possible, And also my journey helped me to look at money, to look at the shame, to look at the grief, to hold it in my hands, and to understand that it did not make me who I am, what I have or what I don't have, where I've been or where I hadn't been. It's been an incredible gift to my life. And also it has shined a light for me, more so illuminated this disease called whiteness and white supremacy, and how it has harmed not just my community and the world community, but folk who wrap that mantle around themselves, the illusion of it, the lie of it. And so as a woman of spirit and as a healer and musician and author and vocalist in the world, it's important to me to disrupt the vibration of that lie, to disrupt the vibration of the narratives of lack and who gets to have and who doesn't, and oh, so much more. And to help right this reign of the upside down. One thing that I'm sure that we all can see, that COVID-19, that being in quarantine, that being inside of this pandemic has highlighted for all of us that Black and brown folk are disproportionately affected. And it is because of systemic inequality and disparity. And so I'm all about what can I do about that, and how can I stand, and where do I stand? And my sitting on this board and learning about the concept of living in gift, which actually is an old modality. It is. It's an ancient modality and an ancient way of being. So it feels like a reclamation to me, right? And learning and moving deeper into seva and gifting work and receiving the gift of being able to witness and guide and help and co-create. Oh, and so much more. And also freeing me so that I feel and understand what I do deserve. And then I can be more creative about the things that I do want for my life, a home and safety. And I want that for everyone. And so that's a bit of my story, family. And I do so love my board allies, comrades, Noah, and Bernard, and Nancy, and Lily, and Rose, and Steve. And I entered this circle feeling less than and not understanding that I held a powerful and important seat at the table that we have created. And no more and no less, my offering is lifted and important. And so I also take this wisdom and take this energetic and this knowing into communities that I come from. And I work with folk around their narratives of money and the energy that it is and how they see themselves. And so in that way, as Rose shared in the beginning, this work jumps and spreads and expands. And I did go to Rwanda, and I did see love in action, and I did see what is possible when folks agree and come together. Oh, and so much more. But I'm going to close now. I'm going to offer one more song, and I thank you all so much for being. Oh, we are learning to breathe underwater on this path as a child of the moon. Though the mind wants to stay in some yesterday, your heart and your soul dance in time and in tune with everything. Yes, everything. We are learning, we are growing, we are being. Though the voice in the well cries, there's comfort in hell. We are one with all life, and we can choose. We can come to the shore at the end of our day and be and pray. We are learning to dream with eyes open as we vision a world without greed. All of us bleed when some human need goes unanswered. Love is everything. Love, love, love is everything, everything, everything. Love is, love is, love is everything, everything. I would like to welcome Rod back onto the screen. Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody so much for taking the time out of your evening. I know that for me, it's been an honor to be able to share with you and to perform with you. And I hope that you felt honored to be here. I've spent, as I said, a lot of my life around this work, and it really is transformative. And it really is the kind of thing that the world absolutely needs right now. So, anyways, thank you all for being here.
Yes, I will ashe and amen that. Thank you. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Noah, for your gorgeous photos and share. And thank you for being with us this evening, family. And we hope to see you. We hope to see you and touch hands with you. And thank you. Be well and good night.